First on BBC One.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of History CV of Britain. I'm your host Paul, and this evening I'm on my own. They've all deserted me. So I've got lots to get through. I'm going to do a presentation on everything I've learned so far on early Christianity in Britain. So first things first, some of you might be aware that I met up with John Neal last week, which was a fantastic experience. Hugh Evans was there as well in attendance. I'll actually show you very quickly. I've got a picture. There we go. You should be able to see that on the screen now. Yep. So, yeah, it was a great meeting. John is 84 now and has some health issues, but he answered all my questions with just amazing coherence and expertise. It was a fantastic experience just to be with the guy, and we're hoping to do it again soon in the very near future. So do stay tuned for that. There were one or two issues with the sound quality. At the end of the day, we were in a pub in London. It wasn't too busy, but there was some background noise. It was John's choice of venue. We wanted him to be very comfortable. So we'll see what happens next time. But and we lost 4 minutes of footage, unfortunately, as well, because of a Bob Dylan song playing in the background. But it was well worth it. And I think the end product is absolute gold. So if you haven't seen that, do put it on your watch list. Right. Next Wednesday, I will be visiting the author of this book, which I've shown many times before. Can somebody tell me in the chat if that's the right way round? We've had a few. Marchel's here. Don't forget, Marchel's on at 8 p.m. on the Amish Inquisition channel on YouTube. So don't miss that. Good evening to you, David. And good evening to you, or Golvug, I think you say now. Let me know if I've pronounced your name correctly. I hope I have. I need to learn some Welsh. Good evening to you. So back to front, I thought so. Thank you, Marchel. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to try something. I hope this works. Videos, no. Upload video, no. Okay. I know what I've done wrong. So next week it should be sorted. Anyway, so next Wednesday, this Wednesday coming, I'm going up to Kent or across to Kent from Essex to meet up with Adrian Gilbert in his home. And I'm going to be doing an in-depth interview on this book. So we touched on it briefly before in my first interview with him, but when I interview him on Wednesday, we're going to be taking a deep dive into this material, which is fantastic, by the way. Finished it a few weeks ago. Right, what's up next? Future streams, just so you know what's going on. Next week, we have John of Tadley coming back to our screens. We're going to be discussing why our history is missing, why our early history is missing. So anything pretty much pre-Saxon. That should be very good. I'm looking forward to that. On the 30th of this month, we've got Adrian Gilbert joining the live stream, which should be fantastic. And on the 6th of April, we've got Dr. Pidgeon, who was last week's guest and was absolutely phenomenal. His wealth of knowledge and information on the Bible was just incredible. Blew me away. So that's some free shows there to look forward to. After that, who knows? I'm making it up as I go along. Right. I wanted to mention a program that I've been watching. I don't have a TV. I used to have a big 57-inch screen TV where my Klimt painting is now, but I gave it away. I sold it about 15 years ago now, but I still watch the odd thing online. And I discovered a program that's quite pertinent actually to this research that I'm doing at the moment. A program that was made by the BBC in 1976, a drama called I, Claudius, which is fantastic. It's so good. Everything about it is just absolutely brilliant. The acting, the story, the plot. It's just fantastic. Has anyone seen I, Claudius before? It was made, I think, in 1976. So I would have been 1 year old at the time. So I didn't see it then, or if I did, I don't remember it. But it's absolutely fantastic, and it's on Amazon Prime. So I highly recommend spending a few quid on that if you can. Right, okay. I was on another YouTube channel this week on the Arcane Mystic channel with a friend of mine called Alona Woods. And we talked about natural health. We talked about homeopathy, supplements, lots of things connected to natural health. It was a great conversation. She's got a really good channel on YouTube called Arcane Mystic, which delves into health, magic, the paranormal, all sorts of fascinating subjects. So I've just clocked that. Or Goldvig says, just call me Rich. So I'm going to assume from that my pronunciation was pants. I apologise. Or Goldvig. I did look that up actually. By the way, while I think of it, or Goldvig or Rich has got a brilliant channel on YouTube you should check out. I've been watching his videos on King Arthur recently, and they're very good. And I agree with this comment. Marcel Abrahams, brilliant. Derek Jacobi was unrivaled. He was amazing. He was incredible. And one of the great things about this was they were portraying these characters over a long period of time. So they had to have like makeup applied to them to make them look old. So I think Jacobi was probably in his 30s at the time, maybe early 40s or something. But his acting throughout was just absolutely first rate. Really good. So I've just seen Marcel's comment there as well. She's not going to tell me how old she was when it was on the telly in 1976. I'm guessing you were 3 or 4, maybe, Marcel. David J. Yes, a classic series from the books by Robert Graves. You're correct. It was, I think. And yeah, I wouldn't mind reading those books. It was so enjoyable. I've watched them all twice and I'll probably watch them again, to be honest with you. Okay, where was I? Arcane Mystic. Yeah, so if you get a chance to check out Alona Woods' channel on YouTube, Arcane Mystic, I'm on there, as are several other interesting guests that she's got. It's a great channel. Okay. Now, another book that I'd forgot about this book. I should have mentioned it before, really. I was tipped off about this by Ralph Ellis while I was interviewing, and doing lots of interviews with Ralph at the time, about 2 or 3 years ago. So I apologise. You're not going to be able to see, or unless you can read that backwards, I'll read it out to you. It's called The Life of Saint Mary Magdalene and of her sister, Saint Martha, a medieval biography translated and annotated by David Mykoff. This, so it was written by, no, I did write this down. He was a bishop, can't remember his name now. It probably says it somewhere in here. Blah, 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 blah. He was a bishop of Mainz, I believe, in the 9th century. And Mainz in Germany, which was originally called Mayence. And Mayence was the mother of the pagan god Isis. And all these, coincidences I find really, really interesting. Mainz is a very interesting place in Germany, as is Trier. Yeah, so he recorded basically Mary Magdalene coming to France. This is where I think the Holy Blood's Holy Grail book came from. They definitely read this book. So this is like the earliest chronicle of Mary Magdalene coming to France. Now, I've only read the first 40 pages. I'm going to try and slide this in between the Holy Grail and Adrian's sequel to the Holy Kingdom, The Blood of Avalon, which I'll be reading very soon. and hopefully doing an interview with Adrian on this book as well. So this covers a lot of King Arthur material and traces genealogies all the way from Arthur up until Arthur 2, that is, Wilson of Blackett's Arthur 2, all the way up to the present day royal family, and in particular, I think Princess Diana, who was connected to the Arthur 2 line via the Spencer family, if I remember correctly. Okay, so that should be good as well. Right, where are we at? Okay, so we're almost there now, where I'm going to present to you my presentation for this evening. But first, we're going to do two things. We're going to watch the rest of Millie Jackdaw's Merlin and the Pig, which I promised last week to show. So I'm going to put that on now. And talking of which, I also found something in this book which corresponds with the story from the Mabinogi. I think, could well be wrong. I'm no expert. You've probably noticed by now, I'm very much a student of this history. I'm learning, so I'm going to get things wrong. But, you know, whatever. So, okay, so let's key up Millie. And hopefully you should be able to hear and see her okay.
From the Solway to the River Forth was the territory of the Gwir Gogledd, the men of the north. 13 kings who refused to fall under Roman authority, reigning in glory, fighting the Picts, the Angles, and each other. The splendour of their courts, the fame of their deeds, and the profusion of their generosity would be praised in song by the greatest of poets. Now their territory at that time was covered in a thick, wild forest, inhabited by animals and birds of all kinds. An alive forest, a bit like this one I'm in now, with the domains of the 13 kings spread along its fringes. And the people understood the need to feed the wild heart of nature. They gave praises and offerings to the great mother goddess who births all life and receives the dead. And presiding over this vital relationship between humans and nature and supernature were the shaman priests and priestesses, the men and women of knowledge. They were the midwives, healers, shapeshifters, seers, poets, prophets, geomancers, astronomers, lawmakers, storytellers. And chief among them, Myrddin ap Morfran, he of the Selgovai tribe, who was all of these things, and a highly skilled warrior to boot. Picture him now. A man of rugged intensity, piercing, intelligent eyes, dressed in deerskin. In one hand, an ash staff coiled with copper. Around his neck, a golden torque, sign of his nobility. And at his side, a wild wolf, companion to him wherever he went. See them running across the rugged terrain with ease and speed, making their way towards the hall of King Gwenddolai, the last of the pagan kings. As they approach it, the gates open and a great profusion meets their senses. Sounds of cattle bellowing and squealing pigs and hammers on anvils and the shouts of youths practicing their warrior skills and butchering and bartering and wood chopping and bantering and tethered dogs snarling and snapping as Myrddin and Wolf passed by, swiftly silenced by a motion of Myrddin's staff. Within Gwenddolai's hall, a heat of feasting was in progress. Men sat on low couches covered with fur, taking full advantage of their host's hospitality, for the upholding of their pledges of loyalty to him were dependent on it. Great platters piled high with meat, most of it pork. Pitchers of mead and wine and ale. And at the head of the table, King Gwenddolai sat listening intently to the boasting and claims to lineage of his men. An expected ritual, for the greater were their merits, the greater were his and those of the tribe. A little behind him on either side were two vultures. I got caught up in the undergrowth. Two vultures on wooden posts. They flapped and screeched as Myrddin entered. Ah, Myrddin, croeso, friend yn wyl. Gwelwyd dy bresynoleb. Wyt ti'n dod gyda chaneuon, neu gyda newyddion? Gyda newyddion y glwydd, ac o math mwy cyddryblus. Ymasodd Ryddach Cael Afarok. King Ryddach has attacked Cael Afarok. The room was roused. Men shouted and exclaimed, rose to their feet, some reaching for weapons that hung glinting on the walls. Amenawad! Betham Amenawad! They all wanted to know how far the attack had progressed. Were their women, their priestesses, harmed? Cofiwch, ffrindiau. Myrddin spoke with calm authority. Mae gan fenywod Cael Afarok, bwerau sgwyrau... Oh. Cofiwch, ffrindiau. Myrddin spoke with calm authority. Mae gan fenywod Cael Afarok, bwerau cryf, ysgiliau, rhyfelwr. They are canny too and have outwitted Ryddach and his men for now. His warband has retreated. And will feel the full wrath of our revenge, one warrior shouted. The others cheering their approval, many getting to their feet, some reaching for weapons that hung glinting on the walls. Then Gwenddolai spoke. King Ryddach has clearly shown his intentions here, and I'm quite sure is planning on conquering our territories. But this attack is surely meant as a provocation. We must not play into his hands. However, Gwenddolai knew there was only one course of action. There would be war. So, if you are interested to hear these stories that Myrddin told his pig, perhaps you're even interested to know a little bit more about this pig and her significance. Perhaps you'd like to know what happened next in Myrddin's life. Or you may be interested to know a bit more about me and my journey and how I got into storytelling and what is it that drives me and interests me. Why are these stories so important to me? All of this is woven into the performance Mochyn Myrddin, or Merlin's Pig. So for further details, check out my website, www.milliejackdaw.com/events. You'll find all the information of my Welsh tour. And if none of those dates and locations are available to you, then perhaps you'd like to reach out and invite me to come and perform in your area. If you think there's an audience and an interest where you live, then I'll happily come and share these stories with you. Lots of love.
Thank you. I've just been told I'm on mute. Brilliant. So anyway, you didn't miss anything. Let me just go back to there. So I've got, I was talking about John Hurt's performance as Caligula, which was, I thought, fantastic in I, Claudius. Now, he did something extremely horrific to his sister, who was his wife, based on what he'd read about Zeus, the god Zeus, and what the allegorical story of Zeus cutting out the baby from his wife and eating it. And Caligula took this very literally. And that particular scene in I, Claudius is horrific. Having said that, there were times when I couldn't help but laugh at John Hurt's portrayal of Caligula, because it was quite funny and very, very good. Anyway, okay. So, and Brian Blessed as well. All the actors in that were absolutely fantastic. It's a real classic, and I'm amazed I've never seen it before. Okay. Rich has said, thanks for mentioning my channel. That's a pleasure. It's a really good channel, mate. Glad you have enjoyed the videos. More coming soon on Camland. Pleased to hear that. The way this stream is developing, we're kind of moving towards that era, kind of like the end of the Dark Ages with Arthur 2. Arthur 1, Wilson the Blackett's Arthur 1 at the moment is up for debate, it would seem. Adrian Gilbert, the author of The Holy Kingdom, no longer agrees with them on the first Arthur, but is still very much on board with Arthur 2. So we'll cover all that as we go along, and it should be very, very interesting. Okay, more comments quickly. I'm also very cautious of the time tonight because I don't want to overlap with Amish, because our Marchell is on there. So, and I'm really looking forward to reading that. Talking to Marchell, here she is. The Woman with the Alabaster Jar by Margaret Starbird is a really good read. Funnily enough, I've heard that before, and I think it was Ralph who told me about that. So that's two people now who I respect very much. So I will make a mental note of that one, definitely. And isn't it funny how Mary Magdalene is always portrayed with red hair, or nearly always portrayed with red hair? And I think that's very revealing. Let's scroll down a little bit here. We've got Mona. Good evening, Mona. Nice to see you. Yes, I sometimes watch I, Claudius on YouTube. I couldn't find it. Oh, no, I couldn't find it on YouTube. So maybe they've put it back on. I don't know. I love it. It's very British. Good evening, everyone. Greetings from Germany. Nice to see you, Mona. Okay, scrolling down a bit now. Have we got anything else? Earth to Paul, Andrew Christie. Hello, Andrew. Hope you're well. Yes, and then we've got the comments about being muted. I don't know. Oh dear, never mind. Okay, right. What's next? Before the presentation, a competition. We're going to do a competition on this live stream. Okay, so it requires a slide. Now, the idea of the competition is you have to tell me who I'm talking about. Okay. It's a bit of a trick question, to be honest with you, because I think when you read what you're about to read, many of you will probably guess the answer. I'll just leave it there because it's not as simple as you think. Okay, so let's share screen. That's the one. Okay, so who am I talking about? Let me just check you can see that, because I'm on my own. Yeah, you can. Good. Okay. So let's go back to that so I can see it. Okay. Who is this person? A Jew raised in Judea, a Roman citizen. Now, only a few hundred Jews were Roman citizens at that time. They were raised as a Pharisee. They became a rabbi. They were pro-Roman and had short Roman hair compared with Jews at the time. They worked with the Roman authorities against the Jewish revolutionaries. It's historically known to have had changed sides. So this person changed sides and became a traitor to their previous cause. They were named as a liar and physically attacked by previous supporters. They sailed to Rome on a prison ship named Castor and Pollux, but were shipwrecked on Malta. They sent letters all over the world regularly, which at the time would have signified that they were from a wealthy background. They had an assistant called Epaphroditus, and they were Jewish but were against the practice of circumcision. So, who am I talking about? I've seen one answer already that's very interesting. So, who am I talking about? If you get the complete answer correct, you will win a free bag of Celtic sea salt from Nutrient Nirvana. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Telegram as Nutrient Nirvana. Look me up, send me a message, and I'll send you a bag of Celtic sea salt if you get the correct answer. Okay, and what I'll do at the end of tonight's show, I'm going to scroll through all the comments to see who's given me the answer. That's very interesting so far. Okay. In actual fact, we've got a winner already, and I'm going to put this person on the screen. They've got it right. Well, at least, no, that's not the right one. That's the one. Sorry, Melissa. So, who is this? Peanut. I wonder if that's Danielle. I know somebody who goes by the name of Peanut. Danielle. They have said Saul, Paul, Josephus, Simon Magus. Well, 3 of those are correct. The 4th one I'm not sure about, and I don't think so. But basically, the person that we're talking about, and I'm going to put that slide back on the screen. Hold on a minute. Bear with. It's, I think, that one. No, it's not. It's this one. That's it. So, a Jew raised in Judea, a Roman citizen who was Jewish, a pro-Roman with short Roman hair, worked with the Romans against Jewish revolutionaries. I love this one. Sailed to Rome on a prison ship named Castor and Pollux, but was shipwrecked on Malta, and was against the practice of circumcision. They both had an assistant called Epaphroditus. We're talking about Saul or St. Paul, and we're also talking about Josephus Flavius. Yes, both these characters, all these lines here or tributes, whatever, all apply to Saul and Josephus Flavius. They were on the same prison ship named Castor and Pollux, which was shipwrecked on Malta. They had the same assistant called Epaphroditus. They happened to be Jews who were against circumcision, who had short hair, were Roman citizens. And these aren't all the coincidences, if you like. There are more, but these are the main ones. So this is, of course, very much part of Ralph Ellis's Edesson theory. And it makes a lot of sense to me. There are a lot of coincidences there. So something to ponder on. Some of Ralph's critics will say, well, Saul was born in AD 10, so he can't be Josephus. Josephus was born later. Well, we don't know when Saul was born. We know so little about Saul. But when you read Ralph's books, he does make a very compelling argument to suggest that they were both, in fact, the same person. And I've had a comment recently on one of my recent videos kind of knocking me for doing this early Christianity in Britain, because I've covered Ralph's material with Ralph on several occasions. I don't think they're incompatible, not completely. The main stumbling block, if you like, is the chronology, the timeline at times. But we're going back 2,000 years, remember? So can we be completely confident about some of these dates? I'm not so sure. If we're only talking about, 10 or 20 years difference. Anyway, that's the competition, which has been won by Peanut. So Peanut, please contact me on Facebook, Telegram, Instagram. Message me on there. I'm under Nutrient Nirvana, herbs and supplements. And I'll sort you out with a free bag of Celtic sea salt. Congratulations. Well done. Right, where am I? Okay, so that's competition time over. I'll just check your comments. I know that Marcel's a bit doubtful about this. They weren't the same man as well, were they? Well, I think, as you've just seen, they have lots of things in common. And at the same time, there's so little history on Saul. There's virtually nothing on Saul. And there's very little on Josephus Flavius. I think there's a bust of Josephus, but even that is kind of argued about between scholars as if, you know, if it is actually the bust of Josephus Flavius. So it's something that is worth looking at. It's worth investigating. And if you haven't read the books of Ralph Ellis yet, then you need to read them. We can't criticize these ideas unless we've read the material, remember. Okay, let's move on now. So we'll look at Joseph of Arimathea is the first thing I'm going to look at. So who was he? How was he connected to Jesus? When did he come to England? Why did he come to England? Where did he live in England? And what were the key locations? So what we do know is that he was a wealthy man, a Pharisee, a mineral merchant, and a member of the Sanhedrin. And there weren't many Pharisees in the Sanhedrin, so that's interesting. He was given permission to take Jesus down from the cross. So he's obviously a very important person to be able to get the Romans to agree to that. And his body was initially laid to rest in a tomb in Joseph of Arimathea's garden. So clearly a very important and wealthy person. Now, what was his relationship with Jesus? Now, this is something I've asked a few scholars, and I always get a different answer. So the most popular opinion would seem to be that he was Jesus's uncle. But last week I spoke to Dr. Stephen Pidgeon, a great episode. Check that one out if you haven't watched it already. I'm going to be rewatching that when I get a chance. And Dr. Pidgeon produces lots of evidence to suggest that Joseph was Jesus's grandfather. Edmund Marriage, I'm pretty sure, because I've watched his lecture on Mona's channel, says that Joseph of Arimathea was the brother of Jesus and is confused with James the Just. I think I'm right about that. And I read recently in Adrian Gilbert's book that Joseph of Arimathea was Jesus's stepfather. So in this book, I won't try and find it now. In this book, Mary, the Virgin Mary, married at least twice. So Joseph, who was a lot older than Mary, Joseph, the father of Jesus, too many Josephs in his history. So Joseph, the father of Jesus, died, and she remarried a man called Alphaeus. I think I'm right in saying that, Alphaeus. And Adrian says, and he gives lots of reasons why in the book, that Josephus was the stepfather of Jesus. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think he was brother, uncle, stepfather. I don't know. But there's definitely a close relationship there between Jesus and Josephus. Now, how are we doing for time? We are 35 minutes in, so I'm gonna have to get my skates on now. So let's see. I'm going to share screen again. That one. Okay, you can see that on the screen. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to read a few things out here. This is the first thing I ever read on the National CV of Britain, the finest website on the internet. And it's a document on Joseph of Arimathea coming to Britain, written by the great Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm going to read snippets just to kind of fill in the blanks. So, as we know, Christianity arrived in Cymru, Wales in AD 37 in the last year of Tiberius. This is attested to by the official historians of the Church of Rome, Cardinal Baronius, that's John of Tadley's favourite historian, the Vatican librarian writing around AD 1530, and Cardinal Alford, as well as by British monks Gildas, who lived in the 6th century, and Nennius, who wrote circa AD 800. So I'm going to skip that bit, and I'm going to move to returning to Joseph of Arimathea. He had journeyed up the River Rhone, along the River Loire, and across to West Britain from Bordeaux. He did not come across the Channel. Joseph, now here we go. Joseph, who was not in our view a tin trader, as is often said, arrived in southeast Wales in AD 37 and began to establish their apostolic Christianity. Now, I wish that Wilson and Blackett had given us some reasoning here on why they disagree with pretty much everyone else on the occupation of Joseph of Arimathea. So I'm not doubting that they're wrong, but we need more evidence. Anyway, the famous Lule Stone. Now, the Lule Stone I've shown on here before, and if I heard recently that it's in the British Museum in London, but it's upside down and the wrong way round. I'm pretty sure it's the Lule Stone that they've done that to. So why are they trying to, do that? What are they covering up? So the Lule Stone shows scenes of the Christian arrival from the Eastern Mediterranean. Joseph became known in Britain as Saint Illid, not to be confused with Saint Illtyd, who they're 2 or 3 centuries apart, if I remember rightly. So I'll move on from there. So, referring again to events in Britain, Joseph had moved into modern-day England after being granted lands there by King Arviragus. The king was a ferocious enemy of the invaders, and the idea of a Roman conquest of Britain in this period is laughable. The 1st century Roman poet Juvenal wrote to the effect that if the Roman emperor were lucky, Arviragus would fall from his British chariot pole and die. Oh dear, so he wasn't very popular in Rome, Arviragus. Which from I'll come to that if I remember in a minute. There's something else. I was talking to John Neal about some of this history, and a few things he said really resonated very strongly with me. And I think he was talking about stuff that possibly John Michel had told him. But anyway, I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so where are we at? A lot of this isn't particularly relevant at the moment. Okay. Excuse me. We believe that Joseph of Arimathea gave Arviragus the flag of St. George as a gesture of gratitude for the gift of land, sanctuary, respect, and friendship. An example of the use of the cross of St. George is on the official coat of arms of the City of London. Okay, I won't go into that now, but if I remember rightly, Marcel, help me out here if you're still with us. I'm sure that you wrote in The Great Migrations that the flag of St. George goes back further than 2,000 years ago. It actually goes back, I think, to Brutus. So we're talking about 500-ish BC. So I'm not sure if Wilson and Blackett are correct about that. So perhaps we could get your thoughts, Marcel, on that in the chat box. Okay, that's pretty much it. So I'll stop sharing now. There we go. Okay, so that's Joseph of Arimathea. At this moment in time, all I can think about is going to South Wales and checking out these places. Llandaff Major, is it? St. Illid's Church. All sorts of places in South Wales now that I'm dying to visit because this history is just amazing. It's so incredible. Okay. I'm going to move on to St. Paul now, I think. So let's go back. Let me find my thing. So who was St. Paul? Well, we've already established that we don't know a lot about St. Paul at all. How was he connected to Jesus? Okay, was he a relation to Jesus? I don't think so, but I'm not 100% certain. When did he come to England? In the AD 60s, around AD 62, I believe. And why did he come to England? He came to evangelize or spread the word of Jesus. Where did he live in England? I don't know, but goodbye, Marshall, if you're leaving. I don't know, but there's a place in Sandwich in Kent, I think called the Apostles' Cottage or something like that, which I need to check out. So possibly he was in Kent at some point. I don't know. That may have been another apostle. But there's a book about this called The Lost Disciples, which is written by somebody called something Jowett, I think, if I remember rightly. So I'll be reading that in the near future as well. So, okay, that's St. Paul. I'm going to rush a little bit now because I don't want to miss Marchell 8. So, Helen of the Cross. Let's talk about Helen of the Cross. So, who was she? She was a British princess. She was married into the British royal family. She was the daughter of King Cole, who is the Cole of the nursery rhyme, Old King Cole. And how did she acquire the cross? Well, as Marcel explained to me about 2 or 3 episodes ago, her son, Constantine the Great, was Emperor of Rome at the time. So she had a lot of power to wield, I suppose. So from that point of view, it makes complete sense. I'm going to return now and go back to the National CV of Britain. That one. Gotcha. Okay. And read you a little bit from this article. This is written by R.W. Morgan, the Victorian historian. I like saying that, the Victorian historian. And it's taken from the life of St. Paul, I think, or St. Paul Comes to Britain. Anyway, so everything invited Paul to Britain to follow the bishop he had already commissioned for the work of the gospel therein. Aristobulus was that? And to be the guest of the royal parent of Claudia. Considering the combination of circumstances which now favoured the execution of his long-cherished design of visiting the west of Europe, we should regard it much more extraordinary if the apostle had not come to Britain than we do his coming here. When to this circumstantial evidence we add the written testimonies we have adduced of Eusebius, Theodoret, Clemens, and others, that he positively did preach in Britain, we see fair reason for concurring in Bishop Burgess's conclusion, though the bishop had but a part of the evidence we have collected before him, that we possess as substantial evidence as any historical fact can require of St. Paul's journey to Britain. There are 6 years of St. Paul's life to be accounted for. There might be more than that, but the 6 years we're talking about are the AD 60s, in the AD 60s. So there are 6 years of St. Paul's life to be accounted for between his liberation from his first imprisonment and his martyrdom at Aqua Salvi in the Ostian Road near Rome. Certainly, the greater part perhaps of this period was spent in Britain, in Siluria or Cambria, which is now Wales, beyond the bounds of the Roman Empire, and hence the silence of the Greek and Latin writers upon it. Well, that makes sense. Has any portion of his doctrine or teaching in Britain come down to us? Any such would be sure to be transmitted in a British form, and most probably in that triadic form in which the Druids, the religious teachers of Britain, delivered their teaching. Now, we find in the ancient British language certain triads which have never been known otherwise than as the triads of Paul the Apostle. They are not found totidem verbi, either whole or fragmentally in his epistles, but the morality inoculated is, of course, quite in unison with the rest of his gospel preaching. So I highly recommend that you go and read the triads. I won't read them now, but they're very revealing in that respect, I think. Okay, I'm going to skip forward. We're almost there now, page 211. Of St. Paul's life after quitting Britain, no particulars have descended to us. After visiting Asia, we find him in the last scene of his life returned to the bosom of the British royal family at Rome. The Palatium Britannicum is that. In his farewell charge to Timothy, he sends him the greetings of Pudens, Linus, and Claudia. So Pudens is Claudia's husband, who was a Roman. Linus, I believe, was Claudia's brother, who became the first bishop of Rome, if you don't agree that Peter was, because there's very little evidence for that, as I understand it. So these, with that of Eubulus, the cousin of Claudia, are the only names of the brethren mentioned by him. These ministered to him on the eve of his martyrdom. These attended him when he was on the block of the state lictor at Aquae Salvi, a little out of Rome, and these consigned his remains with their own hands to the Pudentian family tomb on the Ostian Road. Like his divine master, he made his grave with the rich in his death. Linus, Claudia, and Pudens, and their 4 children, when God, in his appointed time, called them to receive the same crown of the cross, were buried by his side. So basically, all these people were martyred. Okay, I think I'll leave that there because I need to talk about Helen of the Cross as well. So let's stop sharing for a moment. Okay, a good time to quickly catch up with some comments. Okay, Marcel is gone now. Rich has said Wilson probably based his ideas on those of Yolo Morganvig, a track Edmund Williams, Edward Williams, a track known as the genealogy of Yestin ap Gorgon, for instance. Okay, you're talking about Alan Wilson there, aren't you? Okay, brilliant. Let's see what else we've got. That's pretty much it now. Okay, so I'm going to finish up with Helen of the Cross very quickly, because where are we now? We're the time is just coming up to 10 to 7. So I'm going to finish in about 5 minutes, and it'll give you a chance to make a cup of tea or whatever before Marcel begins on the Amish Inquisition. So Helen of the Cross, who was she? Where was she from? And how did she acquire the cross? Well, she was a British princess. Of that, there is very little doubt. Where was she from? She was British, possibly Welsh. How she acquired the cross? We've done this, haven't we? Have I gone on from St. Paul to Helen? This is what happens when you haven't got a guest and you're on your own. Okay. All right. I'll finish up by reading one thing from the National CV of Britain on Helen of the Cross, because as I feared, I've lost my way slightly with this now. So, Monarchs AD, that one. Helen, there we are. So this is John Hart, I believe, John of Tadley. Helen, AD 248 to 330. She was a British princess and one of the most distinguished individuals in all of British history. She also has one of the finest titles, Queen Empress, St. Helen of the Cross. The telling of the true story of this British noblewoman is one element in the rectification and reinstatement of British history by the CV Group. Helen has been the subject of a triple misrepresentation as being of non-British birth, the daughter of an undefiable innkeeper in the northern west Mediterranean area, and the concubine of the Roman general, later emperor, to whom in fact she was married. So, okay, so she was married to Constantine Chlorus, I believe, and they went on to have Constantine the Great, her son, in wedlock, which meant that Constantine was in line to become Emperor of Rome. Okay. Confirming Helen was the daughter of British King Carl II, great-granddaughter of Lucius of Britain, the first Christian king, and great-great-granddaughter of the 2nd century old King Carl of nursery rhyme fame, she married Roman general Constantius Chlorus in 274, and their son Constantine was born in 275. So he was born in wedlock and therefore legitimate, and he was their only child. Okay, I'm going to skip to the bit where we talk about the cross, I think, because this goes on for quite a long time. So Helen was an ardent Christian from a royal dynasty of Christians. During the reign of her son Constantine, she undertook a pilgrimage to the Holy Land on the basis of purportedly finding the true cross on which Christ was crucified. Helen became Saint Helen of the Cross, the Queen in Helen's title. Queen Empress Saint Helen of the Cross derives from her rule in Britain with her husband Constantius Chlorus until his death in AD 306, when she ruled on alone in her son's absence. She was a real British queen. Britain has the greatest tradition of queens regent in the world, and within that tradition, a history of long-lived queens. Helen herself, Elizabeth I, Victoria, and Elizabeth II, the present sovereign, all have that title. So I think we'll leave that there. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing screen. There we go. All done. Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks for watching, everyone. It went fairly smoothly, I think. So much to talk about. I did wonder at the start of this this live stream whether I had enough information to last half an hour, and here I am still talking as we approach the hour. So I've enjoyed it anyway. It's been an interesting experience doing this on my own, and I'm sure I'll do it again at some point. Next week, however, the return of John of Tadley, and we'll be discussing why so much of our early history is missing from the record. Now we've got 6 minutes to Marchell on Amish, so please go over and watch her on the Amish Inquisition channel on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back next week with John. Cheers.